How's it going, everybody? I'm Sean.
And Sarah.
And today we're gonna do something a little unorthodox for my channel. I don't usually engage in these type of highly sensitive and political topics.
Tumultuous.
Tumultuous. A maelstrom of feelings.
Maelstrom.
All across the YouTubes.
Maelstrom.
Maelstrom. Oh, which leads me into the introduction of what we're actually going to be talking about. If you can't read, should say it up there. We're calling this segment "Save the Princess," and this is a response to the Tropes versus Women in Video Games video that was made by Anita Sarkeesian, I believe. I might be mispronouncing that name.
I hope not. For integrity's sake.
For integrity's sake, because that invalidates my argument, because I do not know this woman's last name. I didn't know about her until a few days ago.
Mm-hmm. I didn't either until you showed. Oh, yeah. No, someone actually posted a link on one of my pages.
Watch this pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, it's
some
pretty
good points, man.
It's revolutionary.
Well, it starts today.
Yeah.
No, and so we watched her video, and it's from my...
We watched several videos.
Whoa, I'm gonna get into that.
Okay. Sorry. I'll know my role.
Know your role. Be this trope. So, anyways,
Stop troping my trope.
Stop troping on my tropes, yo.
Continue.
So basically, what she was talking about is, in this first video, is the damsel in distress kind of scenario that exists and is very prevalent in video games and have been since kind of their inception. Since their inception of, like, being a popular medium.
I mean, because Pong was very, very misogynistic.
That's what I'm saying. Can I get just a second?
No.
So since, like, the inception of basically consoles and maybe a few arcade games before that. And she's, positing that the damsel in distress scenario is kind of disempowering to women, and that it's in nature very derogatory, and she makes a lot of inferences about how people feel. She makes a lot of assumptions about how people felt when they played these games.
I mean, she might be displaying, like, how she feels, but she does make a lot of, like, declarative statements. It posits an assumption.
Fact. Well, she posits it as fact.
Yeah.
She makes didactic statements, which are like statements of truth.
Right.
Like an unarguable truth.
Well, I wouldn't say that, because she does clarify other points, but doesn't really go into them. She's just like, I'm okay with this, but... So, we'll get into that.
But we'll get into that stuff a little bit later. So... Basically, yeah, so we watched that video, and, I can't say, like, overall, what are your general feelings? Like, your general feelings. I mean, do you, like, truly, like, hatefully disagree with this woman? Or do you just, like, you see what she's saying, but there are problems with her argument?
Yeah, I would just say I see what she's saying, but I disagree. I kindly decline to agree.
Okay. Well, see, like, I think it's kind of, from my perspective, it's, like, kind of inarguable, like, yes, this has existed. It is... it still is around. It's been used as, like, a device for framing, like, a video game and sending a hero on a journey. A lot of times is save the princess. Well, actually, that's what we call it, save the princess.
That's what we call it.
She says it like obtain the princess, or
make out with the princess,
or get a kiss from the princess at the end of a Mario game or something. And these are, like, in nature derogatory to women. I agree.
Because it's the objectification of women.
Yes. She broke it up into two things: as a subject.
And an object.
Which is, a subject is the one that's in action, an object is the thing to be attained.
Or acted upon.
Sorry, Anita.
Anyway, no, I don't want to be like that, because honestly...
No, I don't want to be snarky or condescending to her either, like...
But to a point, yeah.
A little... She does do that quite a bit. Well, in her other videos, if you watch, we spent like 2.5 hours watching pretty much almost everything she put up on her channel, Feminine Frequency. I'll put a link in the description. I'm sure you've seen it, but I will put a link to the video just so if you haven't, you can watch it, give her another view. She'll say thank you, you can come back and watch this.
She won't say thank you.
Well, probably not, because you're probably a guy.
And it's disabled, anyway.
Well, yeah, and our comments are disabled, but we'll probably talk about that, like, way later. So now that we've been rambling a little bit and kind of poorly introducing this, what do you think, like, she starts out her argument just talking about just the nature of the damsel in distress, what the trope is, and where it comes from. Now, she tracks the history of it through media.
Right.
Or through storytelling.
Through storytelling, which, I mean, I understand that when you're trying to make a argument. You do point to point. It's really hard. You can be succinct and very obvious. And fairly enough, it's linked back to like Greek mythology, which most things are, especially storytelling. That's where epics come from.
That's where they come from. Yeah.
Yeah. No. I mean, and that's only because it's the only. That's like the start of recorded history in some extent. Because
it's actually Beowulf, Sarah. No, sorry.
No, you know what I mean?
That's where we get our framing devices for stories.
No, yeah, and like a recorded thing.
Or tropes, as Miss Anita would probably say. Miss Sarkeesian.
We'll discuss that later.
Okay.
Anyway, no, and so, like, I understood that, she talked about Andromeda, which was, this woman back in the time that was, going to be, raped by Neptune and, was chained to a tree and, like, had to be rescued. And, like, I understand that it's a very prominent story, but I feel like if you're trying to make a very distinct argument for that, you also have to focus on the fact that time, storytelling, and motions for things like that, also focus very, like, much so on a strong woman.
Strong women, actually a lot. Greek mythology and Roman mythology.
Because you also, if you want to think about it too, you had the Spartans, which were some of the first female warriors beyond, I mean, like...
boobs out and everything.
They didn't care.
The original feminists.
They didn't give no fucks. No, they fought for their city, their family, their land. I mean, it was kind of like mechanical, and like we can get into all those sorts of arguments. Whatever. They were strong women.
Yes,
and it was allowed so. It was allowed so, and it was as opposed to like Athens, where it was very controlled, and you had to go out with an escort and all that if you were a woman.
No, the Greeks were a little more free will in that.
Yeah, no. So, but you can look at things like you have Athena, which I don't really think I need to discuss a ton, or we need to discuss a ton, because it's obvious like all what she represents and all the things she did, all the like epic missions she like assisted on and noble things she did. But then
there is literally like hundreds of other like strong female characters represented in Greek mythology.
You can talk about Antigone and Ismene.
Oh, you go back
to are Oedipus's
tragedies.
Oedipus's daughters who go through a lot. Like Antigone stands against the state and for morality and her belief in like an honorable family burial. I'm just saying. So there's all these things you can bring up, and it's kind of like if you're gonna
it's being selective. She's cherry picking, and she'll actually, and even that story that she cherry picked from is not a fair representation of that story, because that character is not a wilting flower. She's not.
She's changed.
But she comes back, and she's a big badass bitch. Like, oh, I'm sorry. No, but that's what she. But that's what she does. That is part of the story. That is part of that character's arc,
development,
and part of her development, and why she becomes the person she does.
Yep.
Which is something that Anita does a lot, and even in some of her other videos, when she was discussing Women in the Fridge, I believe is the name of the video, and talking about just like character arcs of female superheroes. And I think she has a little bit of like, I get it, like I understand what she's talking about, like women, but I don't think that those women are like just frivolously disposed of as she kind of claims. And she even from her own volition does not really read comic books, at least not the ones she was talking about, and she was getting all her information from secondhand sources.
All we can say though is the Green Lantern is the only one she said she didn't read, but then she does cite that.
It's Spider-Man Gwen Stacy did not.
Oh, my apologies.
My recollection.
No, but I'm just saying, so like what happens is like you get shown this page that this other woman, compiles, and it's all these instances in comics with these like traumatic, dramatic deaths of women.
Or just traumatic things that happen, like sexual abuse, things like that.
Yeah.
And by bringing up this, she kind of was like implying and actually kind of just flat out said that because this happened to these characters, they were not well-rounded characters and they were just used there as a device, basically. Which I don't think, I'm sure that's true in some cases. I guarantee you that's true in some cases.
Yeah.
Not in all the cases though.
No.
And not probably, especially not in Spider-Man. Like she brought up, spoiler everybody, if you're younger, Spider-Man, Peter Parker's first love, Gwen Stacy, dies in The Amazing Spider-Man and the run of that series. And it's like it's a big dramatic moment. And it's something that makes Peter Parker like darker, more complex, just more psychologically complex. He makes him more of an interesting character. She thinks that she acts like Gwen Stacy wasn't a character before that, and she was only used, and her death was like frivolous and had no like intention and was not well thought out. And I'm sorry, but I think she's wrong in that instance.
And I think that's like a parallel to some other points that are brought up. It's like women are only brought to these biological like instances of death or like giving birth, these biological purposes to propel something. They're just these kind of like disposable.
They're devices.
They're devices.
They're plot devices, and usually to serve like some sort of male need.
Yep.
Even when she was talking about things like way out of context, like bringing up clips from Star Trek: The Next Generation, which it made me kind of wonder if she'd ever actually watched that show, because it's one of the most like equality based, like even keeled, asexual shows like ever put on the air. I mean, granted, they do deal with some kind of elements of sexuality, and people are male and female, but there is no like stereotypical gender role shit going on. Like, there are very powerful women, there are very powerful men, and everybody kind of just working for a better universe. It's actually kind of draconian and weird, but if you really think about it, but I'm not going to get into that right now. And then she goes from there, from like the Greek mythology kind of stuff, and then kind of gets into, you know, the medieval times and knights and the actual like save the damsel type of like very stereotypical things. And, you know, and like, you know, and romanticism in the sense, you know. Yeah, and romanticism and things, but well, she doesn't actually talk about it. She just like shows you a picture, and then you're supposed to
a waterhouse painting. You're
supposed to just get whatever you're supposed to get from it. She's showing you leading photographs to make you feel a certain way, emotional manipulation to a certain degree.
Yep.
And then she moves up through that all the way up to, I believe she kind of just skips to like King Kong.
Yep.
Is that what she does?
Well, like the perception of
the perception of the damsel in distress, like, and then being attacked by, like,
and she shows some early,
giant
like,
ape man.
She also shows some like early sci-fi movies. One of the first cuts she makes, like very early sci-fi movies. Like,
she talks about the woman on the train.
Yeah, yeah.
The woman on the train tracks.
Yep.
And about the mustache-twirling villains, the damsel.
I love that, by the way.
Where actually the name Damsel in Distress comes from. I believe it comes from that.
Oh yeah, the title of that, like film or whatever. Yep. No, and then moves into like the early sci-fis, which is something she harps on a lot. Not harps. Sorry, you're not a harpy. No, but yeah, just, you know, she moves into the early sci-fi, which then progresses into the conceptions of like King Kong, which leads to
Donkey Kong.
Ta-da!
Yeah. Oh, and then it goes into like, and then she brings up Donkey Kong as being kind of one of the. It's at least, I don't think it's probably not the first instance of this, because she retracts. Shigeru Miyamoto had made some sort of Western like light gun game basically, and that you were like saving or protecting a princess or a woman in the old Wild West. Which is
something I recognized, like, when we watched movies or videos after this, the first time we saw this specific video of hers.
Yeah, this is the first thing we saw, and then we went back and watched the other one.
Yeah, no, but what I realized is, for some reason, like, it's really, like, hard for me to understand what she's saying with an understanding that she's contextualizing with an era or circumstance. So, like, if you are making a Western game, that's how things work.
Well, she has...
Like, honestly, maybe it should have been different. Like, I'm not one to say because I wasn't there.
Yeah.
But the way it's portrayed, it might be harsh upon women or, you know, specific people or whatnot.
If you're making a game that's a Wild West game, there are tropes that go along with being a Wild West like oriented thing that we have like classical recognition of, like these things belong in these stories, or not necessarily belong in these stories, but they usually are. They tend to be. That's why they're tropes.
The bar maiden, the
bar wench.
Yeah.
These type of ladies of the night, prostitutes.
Oh my god.
Saloons with whorehouses and stuff. Oh yeah. Oh, it's crazy.
Please stop talking about that.
It's crazy.
Because
it's crazy, girl.
Oh my god. You're damning me. No, anyway, no.
No, so she kind of, and that was kind of a through line in a lot of her videos, was like there was no context to anything. Like, she did not put anything in context. She's just like, kind of with like, just damn it, regardless of when it was created. Which
is unfair because she's coming from a progression. I mean, forever, you know, I guess I will admit now I don't see myself as a feminist, but we'll get into that later. But no, what I'm saying is, like, you know, a feminist standpoint where, you know, women need to be empowered, whatever, but like, which has come from a certain point in time, but like, things have always been a certain way, and it's endemic to society and the structures you're around. Granted, anti-feminism and the way women have been treated are endemic to those structures, but also various other aspects are as well, and that's just how the world functions. So if you don't consider within a time frame or actually how the world was going,
what about, really aggravating. Do you think in 20 years from now there's a possibility that somebody could watch her video and be like, well, that's fucking ridiculous. Like, that is so misguided.
Yeah, it's because I think that's the way it is now.
And sexist and kind of...
in my opinion...
It's not gender equality. It's not. It's female...
Female power.
Power. Empowerment. It's not gender equality. There's a difference. We'll talk about that stuff at the end. We keep bringing it up because it's very relevant. It's relevant throughout every vein of this body of all of her arguments.
The entire purview of the statement, which I would like to say now, I don't disagree with everything. I disagree with a lot of the way it's presented and a lot of the, I guess, presumptions put forward with it.
Yeah, she does a lot of assumptive thinking going on.
Yes,
and attributing things that aren't fair because she can't possibly know.
Right. And that's not because she's not, I'm not saying she's a smart, intelligent, powerful lady. She might be, I don't know.
Maybe she is.
But, I'm saying that because I think there's a lack of understanding of perspectivism. And it's more, I don't know, like, I think it's unfair to not in some way regard viewpoints coming from other perspectives and walks of life, which is something that people who are actually concerned with equality between people. I'm not talking about gender, I'm not talking about race, I'm not talking about age, I'm not talking about any of that. Like, I'm talking about people. Like, you don't concern yourself with things like that.
Well, because and I think like a lot of people do, and I think a lot of people just throw this word around without really knowing what it means is patriarchy, and about and what that actually entails, what a patriarchy entails, or that we live in a patriarchal society.
Yep.
And I think you could have said that in this country in America like a few hundred years ago. I think if you were to bring it update that to 1950s to 60s, you kind of could still say that, but in the modern day, I don't really think so. I think it's something that we're just constantly shoved down our throats. I feel like it's somebody telling me that's the way it is without it actually being that way.
And that's the way.
Because I think we're in a classist society. I don't think we're in a patriarchal society anymore. Like, gender and race do not matter anymore. Like, it's your social standing that matters.
And to comment on what you're saying about patriarchy being shoved down your throat, that's how I feel about feminism. It's being shoved down my throat. But...
Oh, it's feminism. I'm just saying, the idea of patriarchy being, a problem. Feminism is shoved down my throat, too. I'm not allowed to be, in modern society, I'm not allowed to be, a quote-unquote man. I'm not. I'm not supposed to be. I'm supposed to be kind of emasculated, a little bit effeminate, supposed to be understanding and caring about everything. I'm not really allowed to have opinions that
You're supposed to be the spider from Game of Thrones.
Exactly.
A eunuch.
Well, I'm not allowed to have opinions, it's not, about things without the caveat, but I can't really say that. Especially if it kind of has anything to do with, women's rights or issues.
Yes, you can.
What I'm saying, in, a larger, public arena, the way it's presented to, the male populace of the world and this country.
Which is unfortunate.
It's not really it's not a two-way street. It's not. Because women are allowed to talk about, say, whatever the fuck they want about male culture. And it's because it's always looked down as a negative thing, rather than, but it's always small slivers. Just like feminism is a small sliver of female ideology and, what actual women are like. And same the way, over-masculine, bro, frat boyish, douchebag, stereotypes is a very small, sect of the male community.
Yeah.
Just in the same way.
No. So that's the way I always see it, is because I'm expected, because I am a educated, independent woman. Mm-hmm. I'm expected to be a feminist, and that is just
Well, it's supposed to be a given.
No, it's a given.
You believe in women's rights, or you believe that there should be more equality in the world, and you have your own personal label of what you want to call that. You call it just equality.
No, yeah, I just call it
equality.
Yeah, no, I don't even call it people equality. I just say equality.
Yeah,
I don't.
It's not as genderless.
Yeah, it's genderless. It's ageless. It's raceless. It's all those isms. Anyway, no, seriously. And so, that's what's frustrating to me is, it's expected of me as a woman to be that way, is I'm supposed to see things a certain way. And I think that's really frustrating and damning to the cause of, not necessarily just the equality of women, but the equality of everyone, which I think what the cause we should be focused on, as opposed to separating and segregating certain sects of people to do such certain things. I don't
No, it's because you're just saying, it's only one gender's perspective is correct rather than like having an equal measure in these conversations.
And I think and like what's I guess causing this rant right now is at a point where we saw in one video, I think it's the Straw Feminist maybe of Miss Anita.
Yeah.
No, where she discusses like in sort of like this weird like I guess like 4-sentence like sequence, it's talking about how with a interjected clip, it talks about how the fact that like if you are looking for gender equality and you don't call yourself a feminist, that's wrong.
Then you're a bigot. Like
and that, well, kind of. But like, yeah, you're a bigot in this sense, but it's like, it's saying you're kind of wrong, and that's like the way this like the wordplay took me to think. And then I just kind of think about, then, like, you remove all masculinity from things, which I know is a big, like, thing in, like, modern, like, feminism to some extent. But at the same time, it's, like, feminists. More radical feminists, yes. But, like, it's at the same time, it's like the flip of the coin. There are masculine things and ideas and existences, and we can't deny that. Mm-hmm. So, it's really frustrating.
So anyways, we don't mean to, like, labor this point, but I think it's important to talk about that, because we're going to do something that Anita doesn't do. It's called framing and context. We're putting this in a frame. This is her, like, ideologies.
Squaring it out.
This is the way that she kind of views things, and this is the perspective that she comes at them from. As best of my eye can interpret it. Like, I am not, like, a scholar, and I did not, like, watch these videos 1,000 times, either. But I did pay attention when I was watching them, and you know what? I watched them with a very open mind. I did not go into these... I was kind of interested. I did not go into watching these like to hate them, and I don't hate them because I'm sorry, like I don't like, it's not that she's like so innocuous, and like the arguments she makes are more like frustrating and than anger inducing. Like,
no, I agree. I mean, at one point I kind of just had to sigh a bit.
No, I mean, I have little sisters and stuff. Like, I don't like the fact that like my 14-year-old sister could watch this and take this as rote. Like, I think that's because I think what she's done is set herself up on a kind of a pedestal and is speaking for people.
Yep.
She's speaking with authority as an authority. And I do kind of have a problem with that, because it's not discussion-based, it's didactic truth-based. Like, this is the way it is. Not, let's have a discussion.
No.
Let's as a community of people, let's have discussion. And that's kind of like what my channel is all about. Like, Ryan and I do not, like, very rarely ever go off on tangents about, like, this is right, this is wrong. No, these are always our opinions. And people are more than welcome to disagree, and sometimes they do. And you have to deal with, like, all the things that, like, Anita would have to deal with if she enabled comments.
Sorry, I'm not right.
But anyways, since this is about video games, probably should get around to that. So the first thing she brings up is Donkey Kong. And how Donkey Kong... And Pauline. And, of course, the Kong man himself. Donkey Kong. I don't know why is it Donkey Kong?
Because it's like...
I mean, I know they couldn't use King Kong because it's copyright, so they were just like, oh, DD.
Donkey Kong. No,
it's sweet. Whatever it is, it's sweet. It works beautifully.
It's barrels of fun.
And so, as Jumpman, probably Mario's father.
No, it's his alias.
His alias, Jumpman. When he checks in at hotels, he checks in as Jumpman.
Yeah.
And so, like, your object is to save...
She's not a princess.
Save this woman.
Yeah.
This woman that was kidnapped by this Donkey Kong.
Stuck on a platform next to a big raving gorilla throwing barrels.
Yeah.
Let's put this in context.
Up on this scaffolding.
Yeah, let's put it into context. She's on this huge scaffolding platform. She can't go anywhere because a raging, huge gorilla throwing barrels. I wouldn't fucking go anywhere either. So, as
Jumpman, you have to make your way up the platforms and save her in some way, while avoiding the barrels and the flame balls and all the other obstacles it throws up against you. You have to jump and climb your way, and smash your way to the top. And, and you get her.
Eventually, after a whole bunch of screens.
So that's the first example she gives. About, like, using, like, Pauline as an object to be obtained or just to be had for just, like, very kind of, like, salacious, or, like, that's kind of the implication she made, in my opinion. Salacious things. And then she kind of bleeds that into just Mario and then Princess Peach.
Yep. Which is, I like, which is funny because it's just like, I wonder, is Mario has dominion in the kingdom he's in because it's like your princess is another castle, correct?
I don't.
No, but I'm just saying
I think it's well, even if he was just a person in this kingdom.
That's what I mean. It's like
it would still be your princess.
Yeah, no, and so that's the way I always took it growing up. Was like, oh, the princess of where I am, which I mean, in its whole other like political reason, might need to be discussed, but
yeah,
but for the sake of like the sort of sense of...
Well, she kind of lumps all these games together. Especially in the beginning, because she talks about Mario for quite a bit.
Yep.
And then she talks about Mario 2 and how, like, Mario 2 Doki Doki Panic was reskinned to be Mario 2 because Mario...
That's advertising, by the way.
Yeah, that was a really funny commercial. Japanese are racist against themselves. And,
that's very true.
And like
onion.
And like and there's 4 playable characters, and obviously they have Mario and Luigi, and then they added Toad and the princess.
Yep.
Princess Peach as another playable character. And the main series of Mario is the only instance you ever get to play as the princess. It's the only time she's ever empowered.
And can I argue that Toad's the eunuch?
Yeah, he kind of is. Toad's a little weird.
I like Toad.
Freaky Deakies need love too.
No, but I'm just thinking about it. Toad's the eunuch. He's the neutral.
He's the neutral guy. He's like, I don't know what I am.
So that's the most that's the most progressive game.
Part of it.
No, the most progressive game of all time. We'll talk about that another time.
Yeah, maybe we
transgender.
Can do a whole video about that.
Anyway.
Yeah, so and then she brings up right after that. She brings up Legend of Zelda series, I believe. And but
just close to my heart.
And what's the object of that? Is go get the princess, save the princess.
Yes.
And that's what we call it, save the princess.
She
calls it like attain this princess, get the princess, be rewarded because of this. Always has kind of a devious and salacious, like I said before, salacious like connotation to it.
Yep.
That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, no, and I'm a Zelda. The whole Zelda enterprise, if you want to call it that, is
series, if you will.
Pardon. Well, outside the mainstream series, because when I talk about mainstream series, apparently.
Yeah, the other ones don't count.
Majora's Mask is the best. Anyway, I very much grew up on Zelda. Still to this day, adore Zelda, and I got really aggravated with that, especially as a young woman that grew up on Zelda. And it's not, I don't know, it's not because I'm defending like this nostalgia point. It's because I wanted to think of it from this point. One of the biggest things about the Zelda series is Link is a silent hero. We discussed this. Where in every instance, Link doesn't talk.
Yeah.
And the reason this was done, not only because, as you say, Nintendo doesn't change ever.
No. They have a formula and they stick to it. But beyond that,
which is fine.
The silent protagonist.
The silent protagonist is so, at least as I understand it, or I feel, is that while you're playing, you can attach and assign yourself to it. You can invest in this game. Which is, I think, why the original Zelda remains a classic, because every time you pick it up, I could pick it up again to this day, and each dungeon will probably mean something different to me at this moment, at this time in my life.
Well, yeah.
No, because I apply to it what I feel. And I think what is being overlooked is so object and subject were defined as, certain ways within this like dialogue that we're having.
Yeah.
Because we're allowing a dialogue.
Just having a leading conversation.
We're having a dialogue.
And we're having a dialogue.
Anyway, and so an object is something that can be acted upon. And in my opinion, an emotion is something that can be acted upon. So whatever, like as we mentioned with Mario, is like Zelda is the princess of Hyrule, and Hyrule is my kingdom, or I am on the outskirts of Hyrule, that is my kingdom.
Yeah.
And so, to me, there is this endemic loyalty that lies with that, no matter what time frame we're looking at or instance we're looking at.
He's
correct?
A loyal servant to Hyrule.
He's a loyal servant to Hyrule, or even, wherever he is, that is as the kingdom that is there. Whatever.
Yeah, well, another thing that you brought up,
yes,
like, as far as, like, an alternate way of thinking about, like, this object type of thing, what are you actually doing? What are you trying to attain? Like, you just put it in context to the story.
Right.
of Link. That's his motivation as a character to do the things he does. And I know that there is some love thing going on with Link. Not in the first game. Not in the first game, really. It happens later.
It happens later, and they also change it. Unfortunately, I hate the way they do it in Skyward Sword. It's kind of stupid. But
beyond that, what I mean is, like, the object of what you're trying to do is actually just the act of heroism.
The act of heroism.
Just being a hero, that is what empowers you as a player. That is what you're feeling as you're going through the dungeons, as you're completing the quests, as you're attaining the sword. Like, you're...
Fucking Master Sword.
The Master Sword.
The raft was like the shit. You're not going to get across these rivers.
No. You're becoming a hero.
You're becoming the hero. And which is like, you are empowering yourself. Whether I was a female, you were a male, whatever gender aside, whether Link is a male on the screen, I'm the female propelling him, I'm the male propelling him, I'm the person propelling him. And then the other interesting fact, too, is if you want to sit here and argue the word trope, which I think you're making trope a trope. Anyway, what I think's happening, though, is, like, to the point where if you think about it, if you're going to sit here and endemically think of males, like, playing these things, whatever, these games or whatever, it's going to be... to a man or a boy, from my impression, one of the tropes for a male is to be a hero, to be the strong, to be the overpowering, to be the savior, to be the, like, and is that the trope you play to then? Because I'm this young, because Link is young.
Yeah.
I'm this young male that has this great weight put on me, which I don't think is unfair to look at from that idea, because that's what it is.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So I think that was a big, and not only because the Zelda series is close to me, but that was something that really,
a big point of contention for you.
That was, because it's like.
But it revealed other parts of her, other flaws in her argument. So it brings up other flaws in her argument, like I said, and that's her issues of like what you as the player bring to it, like you were saying before, think about how things can mean different things to you at different times of your life when you play these games. Like when you were a kid, like she's like kind of like implying that like. This is an entirely negative trope, if you will. Like,
or
this trope
experience.
Or an experience for a person to have because it's going to subconsciously affect you. I do think media does have a large effect on our subconscious and how we view things in societal structures and stuff like that. And I think a lot of those stereotypes and things are reinforced in the media constantly. And I think she's part of it. I think she's another person that is doing something very similar to the thing that she's actually against. Yep.
Not against, or just...
No, she is against. Very much so.
Questions.
No, she doesn't question because she makes claims at the end of her videos like, "Hey, Hollywood writers, why don't you start writing well-rounded female characters, then just don't."
Why don't you stop bitching and start a revolution?
Or do it yourself.
That's what I just said.
But I don't know. I mean. And I agree with her on that, but I do agree with her. I think there are usually things are oversimplified, and the characters are not always three-dimensionally drawn, and things like that. But I think if you're gonna attack games that are as rudimentary as Mario and Zelda,
8-bit wonders,
these 8-bit games that really you still had to actively use your own imagination to fill in the gaps and make it the incredible journey that it was.
Yeah, a lot of it's screen to screen, just
So if you're a 10-year-old kid in 1991 playing this game, are you implying that these kids were had these evil intentions about especially these male kids were mustache twirling little boys saying I'm gonna get the princess and I'm gonna get some of me some, or were they oh, I'm a hero and I get to go save this princess?
Save the princess.
That's why we titled it Save the Princess, because that's what we feel it is in some instances.
I still...
Well, it's always, from my perspective, because that's the kind of player I am. I play Mass Effect, right? Mass Effect, you have you can either play the game Paragon, which is play like a good guy, or you can play Renegade, like a bad guy. I'm the best dude in the galaxy. I'm like the Jesus Christ of the fucking galaxy. I am the best, most forward thinking.
Is that how you played Fable too?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was always evil.
I was a benevolent king.
I had super horns.
So maybe you're the problem.
No, I always played the evil path just because I never did in real life.
Oh, I don't.
That's another question. No,
and that's because I invest shit myself.
No, and that's fine. But could that also be another question? Is this is not how I am in real life, and this gives me a medium to see how things could go.
Act out the fantasy.
Yeah, no, which I mean could be gross.
No, because male power fantasies.
I just described a female power fantasy.
Yeah. Well, I think it could go either way. Like,
No, and that's the flaw.
Yeah.
It's like it's never a discussion of both sides. It's really not.
Well,
because like that's always been a problem I've had with a lot of like I'm gonna get into this now.
Okay.
Like I've had a lot of problems. You know, I went to a liberal arts school, mostly female population. And by not declaring I was this, that, or the other, it caused a lot of problems. Mostly declaring I wasn't really a feminist, and it wasn't because I disagreed with like people being treated fairly. As a working woman, I feel I should be paid the same as you.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Me too, because we live together.
No. No, no, there were just really, like, I had a lot of problems with that, and my issue was, you know, talking about things like domestic violence or sex work or just even, like, these larger things that affect, like, these feminist purviews and understandings. I would always bring up the fact there are, like, transgender and male sex workers. There are men that get abused by women every day domestically.
Yeah, it's a cross-gender problem.
No, it's a cross-gender problem. Albeit it's the minority, it's still there, and the fact that
it's
we
not
ignore...
the minority. It's not. That's a bullshit to say that.
I mean, it may be, but I'm just saying it. Maybe in the view we have as a society, maybe
in the
not.
Societal
No.
Yes.
Yes, that's what I was saying.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe. No. No, I'm just saying, like, statistically, whatever it is, like, I understand it's skewed one way or the other, but it's there. And I have my reasons for feeling strongly about that, whatever. But the fact that people ignore that, it frustrates me, because it's not the problem, the fact that, like, there are abused women. There are, like, you know, what this, that, or the other. There are abused people.
Yeah.
There are malnourished people.
No, but
there are struggling people.
It's not, like we said before, it's not about gender, it's about just equality for equality's sake. Not female empowerment, not male empowerment, not about making a patriarchal or matriarchal society. Like, that's garbage, and it just stops people dead in their tracks from being able to communicate, because when you take a stance like, I'm feminist, I'm anti-feminist, or whatever, it's like you are drawing a line in the sand and you're saying get on this side of the line or get on that side of the line, and we will never actually have a real conversation in between. Never gonna happen, because
I believe in philology, the love of a woman, not the misogyny, you know.
No, but like we're just like, because when you take sides, when you get in a trench like that, then you're going to be like, because of societal constructs and our societal way of thinking and stuff like that, we're going to negatively react to anybody that identifies that way. And vice versa. Like, it's not going to be, then no progress or nothing will actually happen, because people are going to be so entrenched in their views, and this goes back to what we said before. Like, if you come at it from a place of, like, didactic knowledge, this is truth, then you are closing yourself off from avenues of thought that could maybe change your mind, augment your opinion. And if they don't, then who cares? Like, you have a conversation. Do not ever make declarative statements when you're talking about this stuff, because you don't know. No, nobody is an expert.
Nope.
These are still fields of psychology and science and sociology that are still being studied today.
Yep.
That's why it's all still relevant, you know?
Yep. No, it's really aggravating. So, I mean, and that's what it's like. I understand why people push for things be displayed or understood a certain way. I highly wish that, like, everything could be fair and beautiful and utopia, which means nowhere, so it's not gonna happen, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, no, but what I'm saying is, like, I wish things were all nice and dandy, but it's not going to be, and the fact that people are still struggling to this day to articulate and understand all sorts of walks in order to make progress for people, as opposed to these certain endemic isms that because there's no way we can just rid our existence and world and experience of these strong structures like you were talking about. Like, I could even say capitalism if people have a problem with that, or, like, you know, gender issues, race issues. Unfortunately, we can't just be done with it, gone and away.
Well,
but that's
part of the reason why we can't is because of people that, like, come out
keep bringing up the...
No, it's not bringing it up, because you should bring it up, you should talk about it. But bringing it up in this kind of a way is it's not productive.
That's what I was going to say.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Oh,
Great
shit.
Apology. Oh, shit.
No. No, that's what I was going to say. It was like, you bring it up, but you don't leave it for discussion or this sort of, like, openness to change or become this field of understanding. It's this field of this, like, kind of oppression in a way that you were explaining as males do.
I mean,
I'm sorry.
It's a different form of, like, right-wing, like, religious nuts, or they're just left-wing feminist nuts, like, to a certain degree, like...
Radical anarcho-syndicalists.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. I don't think this girl, Anita, is, or this woman, sorry, is a...
This bitch. I'm sorry, you're a part of bitch media.
Well, she was, formerly.
Oh.
Formerly a part of bitch media.
Anyway.
But... Like, I don't think she's a radical feminist. I mean, like, and the idea, and just like with but like the fact that there is a segregation between feminists and radical feminists, and they feel the need to, like, identify as one or the other is just like a religion. It's like any other ideology where you have your middle ground people, and then you have your kind of extremists, and then you have your fucking radicals. Like, so it's no different than that. And I don't think those things are positive. I don't think I think
just like
modern like religious kind of like I don't know what you call it, like just set up just there are way like that people going to church every Sunday and crap like that, so they can't find the right word for it.
Devoted,
or just like Christian communities and stuff like that. They don't. Like, I don't think you need, like, the construct of a church and, like, that hierarchy system to actually have faith or do anything. Like, if you want to believe in that stuff, that's fine. I think it's old, it's archaic, it causes more problems than it solves. And I think feminism
and I think
is part of that. Or the way these people treat feminism is part of that.
No, it's become an archaic trope.
I agree.
And, I mean, that's unfortunate because I would like to see progress and change for women. I would like to see progress and change for men in some ways and for everyone. Like, I would just like things to be better, as any idealist would. I don't want to be an idealist. But you know what I mean?
No, but we want things to be better for the whole, not just like a piece of the pie. Or a sect, or a gender, or a race. Like, equality is equality. There's no discussion on what equality means, but when you put things like... You try to put this label on it as gender equality, but you don't mean gender equality, you mean female empowerment.
No, and that's I different. Feel like what I pulled from, I mean, to bring up another point, was like, I feel like from some of this viewpoint, there was a way I was meant to feel as a strong woman.
It's supposed to make you feel empowered and, like, in bullshit, and, like, and angry.
But it doesn't. I feel like because I feel a certain way, like, because I am a certain way, I have to identify a certain way.
That's her... Like, that's what she infers.
Yeah.
Implies.
And so what I was saying was, like, you know, I feel that, you know, like, what I feel like that I'm a strong independent woman. I paid my way and put myself through college. I'm still paying for it. You know, I worked full time, whatever the circumstances were, I put myself through school. I was a strong, independent woman since the age of 15, honestly. Not to, like, I'm not putting, like, time or matters on it, but, like, no, for me, as a strong woman, I feel like I've been told that I have to be a feminist.
Yeah. Because if you're not a feminist, then you are against, like, women's rights.
I'm against the movement. I'm against, like, I don't mean, well, I am against the movement, but I'm against progression.
Yeah. And that's
how I'd like to frame it, is a movement versus progression. And
that's just narrow-minded, and just like I said before, like, about, like, left-wing religious nuts is narrow-minded and fucking crazy, to be honest with you, because you can't force these type of labels onto people, and like, you're doing more harm than you're doing any good.
Yep.
And the implications when people make that are, like, I think that's kind of just crazy. And
I think it's really sad that I've been also, like, I feel like there is this sort of, like, damp, darkening thing sometimes on the fact that people want to have a family. People want to, like, you know.
Yeah, if you're a woman and you want to have a family and you want to have, like, kids.
Or the fact that, like, maybe some people can't afford to stay home somehow and be with their kids and their family.
Oh, it's
or,
looked
like,
down upon, yeah.
Yeah, or the fact that I want to be a chef. Let's talk about that Lego video. Anyway, no, just things like that, like, where it's, like, of course, there are certain things that, like, because of, like, systems in society are endemic to development in some manner to, like, certain genders. I understand that with, like, toy development and all that, which is discussed in other videos by Anita or whatever, which is really frustrating to me because I think we talked about this, like, it's more about circumstance and environment, too, because, like, There's like 2 video series on Legos, which I got really frustrated about.
Lego and gender roles. Yeah.
Lego and gender roles. I'm a very avid Lego person.
Yeah.
Lego has taken a lot of my money. Mostly Batman and Pirates. But anyway, not the pink Legos. No, as a kid they were. But anyway, I also had the castle growing up, and I think that's because I was pushed in certain ways to think certain ways, and I think that's a lot of what's wrong is we don't have a strong family dynamic a lot of days because we're too concerned and wrapped up in self.
Well, because that's the thing, and that's the question I asked you was just like so in this perfect world of like equality, what's wrong? What happens if a woman chooses that as her goal in life? I mean, because if you look at it now, then you're a traitor. You're a gender traitor.
I am. But it's also, I mean, would it also be the same if a dad could afford to stay home? He's a gender traitor.
That'd be awesome.
Mr. Mom?
I'm progressive.
Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. No, I mean, either way, if one of, it's like, say we had a family or someone had a family, and I think a lot of times, unfortunately, when someone can afford to stay home, and I mean afford because things are shit right now, so if you can honestly afford to stay home, no.
Good for you, yeah.
No, good for you because you're around family, whatever, as long, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But, like, my position or, like, I posit to you, then you're saying to me, like, well, I'm a gender, you didn't say that, but you're questioning, like, I would be a gender traitor if I wanted to stay home with my family. Well, in a way, wouldn't a male that could, afford to stay home say, I went out and I was the breadwinner, I was the, like...
Would I be a gender traitor?
No, yes. No, endemic to tropes of a male.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
No, but I would never be called out on that. Like, no woman would ever call me a gender traitor. No, a man might be like, what the fuck you doing? Or, hey, look at you. Like...
No, and so it's... Which brings me to another point that's brought up. It's like, sexuality and the use of sexuality in video games of women in the same way damsel in distress.
Yeah.
If I tried to be, like... Use these tools given to me, which they are tools, to get somewhere in some way. Not saying I'd sleep with anyone, but, like, powers of, like, wiles and ways... Like, I don't do this, but I'm just saying, like, it's using the tools that society gives to you. I don't think it should matter in terms
you use,
of gender.
Like, social norms and social perspectives to your advantage.
Because that's all we have.
That's what everybody does. Whether you're male or female, we all do that.
No, so. but I'm a slut if I do that. No,
but there's a total double standard that goes on in society.
No, so I'm saying to you, I don't think Anita would disagree with you. No, what I'm saying to you, though, is I do think women would have a problem if you were a stay-at-home dad, or anyone was a stay-at-home dad.
I'd be a deadbeat dad.
You'd be a deadbeat dad even though you're home with kids. He's not out earning his money, making his way. I feel like I can't generalize or speak for it, but I feel like that would be a thing, and that's a problem to me.
But it's the way it is. I mean, like... it's something that, as a male, you just accept. Like, you have to accept it because that's just the way, like, our, like, social norms and what, like, gender roles and stuff like that. Or trope, whatever you want to call it. Like, that's the way, like, men are perceived in this country, and that's the way society perceives men and what men should do and men's responsibilities, because we have for a very long time, since like a couple hundred years, that's been the male's role, has been the role of the provider.
Yep.
It's true.
So, which, I mean, it's fine. Like, so fine. Let me be the breadwinner, which is like, what, like, I'll be my independent woman as, whatever. But then at the same time, yeah, it's just very flip side, and a lot of people don't think of it, and I get really frustrated because it's all circumstantial.
Well, it's circumstantial, but it's a double standard argument. Like, there is always will be double standards. Like, in the way that people are, in the way that, like, even like the argument from feminism it's a double standard because they only care about themselves. It's very selfish and very like you were saying before, and like...
I agree, but to bring it back to video games...
Yeah.
No, to bring it back to video games is like, so if we see a woman being beaten up brutally, whether she comes back from it or not, or gets knocked out and defeated, start the whole fucking level. No, if you see that, how is that different from when a guy gets the shit kicked out of him?
Well, that's what we were talking about. Like, Tomb Raider recently released, and Lara Croft gets the living shit kicked out of her. And,
a lot.
And, you know, and as part of this, like, women in games thing, like, some people were having problems with, like, the threat of violence, or, like, there was some talk about in early production stages about, like, Laura with dealing with the threat of rape and stuff, which is something a woman in that context would probably have to deal with, like, a bunch of dirty, like, gross pirate, like, guys. Like, would probably have to deal with that. It didn't end up in the game. But anyways, but, like, watching a woman get the shit kicked out of her, whether it's in a movie or it's in a video game,
real life.
It's just real life. It's just naturally harder for somebody to watch and sit through. Your empathy is going to be with them more. But some people have, like, problem with it because you can't do those same things to female characters. They cannot experience, like, the same type of things that, like, say, a Nathan Drake character would, like, from the Uncharted series. And, like, it is viewed as a very different thing. If it's a male character, it's all well and good. Like, it goes with the territory. If it's a female character, suddenly it's a point of discussion. And you're talking about, like, equality and stuff like that, especially with gender roles and stuff and what women are capable of.
Women capable a lot.
Then you have to consider that. Like, well, why is this a thing, and why are we discussing this? Because if the roles were reversed, it would not even be a point of discussion. And I think Anita, like, totally disregards that. Granted, she says she has part 2 of their video coming up. I guarantee she's not going to talk about this at all.
There's 9 more parts?
Oh, it's a 10-part series. Part 2 is going to be dealing with, like, more modern iterations and dealings with, like, these things.
And then who knows where it's going after, but I'm sure there's a lot of steak dinners involved.
Boom. $158,000 worth of steak dinners.
After
that video did not... This series is not... If this series cost her $158,000, then she needs to get, like, a new budget consultant or get somebody to help her out, because that's pretty horrible. It looks like she's in front of a green screen or a wall and there are pictures behind her, like things that, like, if I had better editing software, if I had $158,000 in a new camera, you know, be my guest, maybe I'll start a Kickstarter myself. Pay Sean's rent for the year. The Kickstarter. No, but, like, she doesn't bring up anything like that. She doesn't talk about the other side of this coin, this other side of this argument, and that's unfortunate, and it's kind of a bummer. It's a bummer just in the context of this conversation, like, that she's having with herself, like that. Like, she doesn't explore these things, and I have a feeling she's not going to. I have a feeling this is going to be a very superficial 10-part series. Like, just like, if the first part is any indication of what is to come, granted, I'm going to watch the other ones, and I'll watch them with an open mind.
I'll watch them too with you.
But, like, if it doesn't try to delve any deeper, like, that'd be really disappointing. Because this is pretty, like, surface level cake shit, like, superficial, like, not very deep, not very even intellectual. It's just, like, the most obvious things you can think of are brought up, and then not even treated fairly or with the dignity of a conversation, like, of any type of, like, real intellect or information. Like, and that's disappointing.
You know, Wikipedia told me.
Pretty much. It sounds like she's reading, like, Wikipedia entries.
She did cite Wikipedia.
She did one time. That's fine. It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and just to wrap it up, one of the last things I want to talk about, because it's important to me, and just in all art and all media, is the issue of censorship. Talk about, this happens quite a bit. Like, it comes up pretty much with everything across the board, like what is allowed, what is not allowed, and we sometimes take drastic measures to censor things.
Yep.
And Anita seems to be, I don't think she did not use the word censorship.
No, never once, because we both mentioned it at some point or discussed it during video viewing.
Yeah.
But it was never mentioned, which is like a lot of major points she brings up.
She never uses the...
It's implied.
It's implied. She never actually has the guts or the veracity of her arguments to, like, to actually say anything of substance. Like, if you're gonna imply something, just say it. Like, don't be a coward. Like, it's an act of cowardice.
Nut up.
Nut up, yo. Bros, yo. No, but, like, so she talks about kind of like how, you know, retro gaming is kind of a thing, so companies are trying to push out all their old games to make an extra quick buck.
Yeah, and more releases.
Putting Sonic out, putting all the old Double Dragon games out, and and all these kind of things, and the fact that sometimes they use the damsel in distress trope. So she kind of implies that we should either update them or change them and alter them in some way.
Well, they were not released in HD. What?
I mean, and then she's kind of even wrong sometimes. She says, like, oh, they did, like, they updated and augmented the series, like, for Sonic CD.
Sonic, yeah.
And that's not. It's a straight port of the old game, because I have the old game, and I have the remake or whatever, not just the re-release of it, and it's the same fucking game. There was nothing done any differently. Like, they didn't go in there and change any code or anything. It's the same game, just like put on a different format, so you could play it again. And she has kind of a problem with that. And
play it again, Sam.
Because of the damsel in distress thing. One of the big things she brings up is Double Dragon, which famously in Double Dragon, the first Double Dragon, and also in the brand new HD 3D graphics Double Dragon Neon, what you're doing in those games, you're trying to save your girlfriend. Of the Lee brothers. And
I have not played,
in the beginning of the game, your girlfriend gets punched in the gut by a bad man, by some like gang dude, gets thrown over. He throws her over his shoulder, and he walks off screen. That's who you're going to save for the rest of the game.
No, and that's why I was only doing this because that's all I've seen in the game.
Yeah,
and
she says that's like an act of like just total nefarious like misogyny.
Can I say something? It happens.
Well,
I'm not pushing it off.
I'm not talking about that.
No, but I'm not pushing it off in real life or in games as a thing. It happens. Like, it does. It's a thing. It's an issue. And if you're trying to save your girlfriend or person you're interested in, like, I don't know. But,
well, that's not the point I was making. But the point I was making is that, like, she gets punched in the gut. She looks at it as, like, this evil piece of misogyny. And implies that people that watch this and play this game are getting some sort of sick pleasure out of the fact that a woman is being punched in the gut and is being disempowered in that way, and not as like, okay, these bad guys they just hit a girl and you're going to go kick their asses for the next 2 hours while you play this game. That's what you're doing. That's what you do throughout the game, and then you fight with your brother at the end to see who gets the girl, which is a little misogynistic.
That's
misogynistic. And if she had actually played the game, she could have brought that up. But she didn't. She brings up the first thing that happens in the first 30 seconds that somebody probably told her
YouTube
about, or she read on Wikipedia. Sorry, but like there was actually something to discuss there with Double Dragon. Not the beginning of the game, because that is not like. Is it male power fantasy? Yes, it is. Totally is. I'm gonna be the big macho dude, kick everybody's ass, and save the girl. But that's not necessarily a negative thing. Is like being the hero and saving somebody is not necessarily a negative thing. I understand she's talking about because these women are perceived to be helpless and they can't help themselves, and all male characters can always help themselves because usually they're protagonists, and if you can't help yourself, then you can't keep playing the game.
I didn't play Double Dragon. No,
I mean just games in general. Like this, like idea of the damsel in distress. I agree with her. I feel like it's an overused trope, something that it shows up in a lot of games. And just for the sake of creativity and variety, I would like to see other excuses to go on journeys. Sometimes, like I don't always need to save some biddy.
I don't always need to have muscles. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. You don't always have to be a muscle-bound idiot. Like you don't
like,
trying to save the princess. Like
it's not.
I want it for that sake, not because it makes me like a sexist monster from playing them. Like, in which I don't think that she didn't say that. She did not say that it makes you a sexist monster playing them. She says like, but it subtly, subconsciously has affected most males into like these very stereotypical gender roles.
Your id is very animalistic.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Freud. Anyway, no. I think that was, I guess in conclusion too, another problem I had. I would like to see, I don't understand why it's portrayed in videos that like when a female hero is portrayed, they have to be more masculine. Not even in video games or videos, whatever.
In
like,
any media, really.
Any media.
You can't be a girly girl and be a hero.
I mean, get me. I like my t-shirts and jeans. But I also, you know, I understand like being like like feminine or whatever, and so does she. Anyway, no, but I'm just saying like I don't understand why it's portrayed that always has to be masculine. I would like to see maybe because like even in her videos, Princess Peach had to be put in Mario's like overalls, like as a joke. I understand that.
It was a joke, it was a gag to put in context.
But at the same time, like,
why can't she just be in the princess dress kicking ass? Which she was in Mario too, so I don't see the problem.
No, I know, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Or like, why does it have to be chic? Why can't it just be Zelda?
I agree.
No, and that's frustrating to me. Is like, why do I have to be more manly?
Yeah, why can't a girl just be a girl and still be a kick-ass hero?
Why can't I just be a chick?
I think actually...
Why can't I just be a chick hanging out?
And if you wanted to have that, like, I think play something like Tomb Raider. Lara Croft, like, the new Tomb Raider is surprisingly... That character is kept totally feminine, but she still kicks ass. Granted, she's wearing cargo shorts, like... Well, not cargo shorts anymore. Cargo pants now.
Her boots are awesome.
And her kick-ass boots. But I think, like, there's a lot of vulnerability there. This is a really three-dimensional character, and... completely maintains her femininity. Like, I never felt like I was playing like a man. Like, I mean, granted, I can imbue myself in any character. I read books, like, I can empathize with almost anybody.
It's true.
Except that guy that you can't see. Who's over there. But, like, so, I can totally put myself in the role of Lara Croft and imagine what it would be like to have beautiful buxom breasts and just traverse around the jungle.
I wish I could.
But anyways, so, like, just to wrap this up, I suppose. Mm-hmm. We've been rambling on for a long time.
Yep.
Do you have any final thoughts you'd like to impart on the world of YouTube?
I mean, I'm curious to see where the series goes. I'm going to actively watch, and I'll probably have opinions, but I wish there was more open mind to things.
Yeah.
And a wider scope, and understanding that one way is not always the right way.
I agree, and that's pretty much how I feel. I feel like it needs to have an element of open-mindedness and more discussion-based. I think she should stand behind her arguments.
Yep.
However weak they may be, or however weak I think they should be. If she obviously does not think that, so like stand behind them and do the right thing. Answer people's concerns and questions. Also, like, if you're gonna bring something up, explore it. It's not fair to like bring up like serious social issues and then just brush over them.
Yep.
And then be like, okay, but you know what I'm talking about, and then move on. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
And nobody else is. And like, speaking as like just a person that has a younger sister that's like a very influential age and watches YouTube and is very into like kind of just mainstream pop culture, like, I feel like this girl like should take that role that she's putting herself in seriously. This woman.
Wait. Don't say man.
But she should take it seriously.
No, I agree. I agree. As someone who's also very close with your younger sisters, like.
Yeah, I think you should take it seriously and just, I don't know. Hopefully it'll be better next time. Hopefully it'll be better next time.
We'll see. I'll see you when I see you.
I'll see you when I see you. All right, I'm Sean.
Sarah.
And I'll see you when I see you.
See you when I see you.